Hi, welcome to City Scene with Mayor Mike Cahill. I'm your host, Walt Kosmowski. Your Honor, welcome. Good to have you in the studio.
Thank you. Good to see you.
Good to see you. And you've brought a special guest with you today. We have Beverly's own Police Chief, John Latcher. John, welcome.
Thank you for having me back.
Well, always good to have you on the show. We're going to be talking today about traffic and some of the issues revolving around that subject in the city of Beverly. And the first thing we're going to talk about is some recent changes in speed limits in the city of Beverly. And Mr. Mayor, maybe you can kind of give us the overview, what's kind of happening, what has happened recently, and we'll start with that.
Sure. Well, we've been working since I took office, and Chief came onto his job just about a month and a half before I did. So we've been working really from the start on trying to make sure that people are safe in their neighborhoods, safe as they travel around the city. What's one person's cut through to get from one part of town to another is another person's neighborhood.
Yep,
Every
absolutely.
street that you drive down is pretty much somebody's home, somebody's neighborhood. So we've really just tried to put a focus on ensuring safety of movement for drivers, for pedestrians, for bikers, for people who live along any given street. There was a change made in state law last summer when the state passed that Municipal Modernization Act that's been talked about a lot,
right.
with over 200 changes in ways that cities and towns can do business. And one important one was the ability to change speed limits, to lower speed limits. It used to be that Mass Department of Transportation controlled every speed limit on every street. And this new change gave cities and towns some flexibility to lower speed limits.
Okay.
The default speed limit, not just in Beverly, but in all communities, was 30 miles per hour. Still is, unless you do what we've recently done, which is to change it, drop it to 25 miles per hour. So we took that step. However, anywhere that you see a speed limit sign, anywhere in town, it's staying that number.
That's the speed limit.
Because if there's a sign, it's because there was an engineering and traffic study done maybe 2 years ago, maybe 50 years ago, that designated that as the appropriate safe speed for that stretch of road. So where you see speed limit signs, that's what it is. Where you don't, we've decreased it to 25 miles per hour.
Okay, so there aren't necessarily signs on those streets where it's been decreased. But just so our viewers are clear, anywhere there is a posted sign, that is the speed limit. And tell us about, for our viewers' sake, what's the mix of the kinds of roads that are in Beverly? You've got interstate, you have 128, you have state roads, city roads. Who controls those, and who controls the speed limits on those, John?
Well, again, the state routes, and that's why when you drive through the city, you're not going to see a change on a lot of the state route speeds. When you come down out of Danvers on Route 62, or you come down Route 22 out of Wenham, 127 out of Manchester, those limits are all set by the Commonwealth. And the only way that we can get those changes through an engineering study. And some of those we may want to look at in the future. Route 128 is 55 miles an hour. Again, that's monitored and maintained by the state. And we have no say on those type of speed limits. The biggest thing we're looking at, again, is reducing the speeds within the smaller neighborhoods. Like 127 going out towards Manchester is a 40-mile-an-hour zone set by the Commonwealth. That's not going to change. But when you get into the back little roadways, we want to try to reduce neighborhood speeds. Children are out playing, people are on bicycles, people are out walking, and the majority of the large complaints we get are from those type of neighborhoods where people are out walking. A lot of those streets don't have sidewalks, so they're forced to walk on the edge of the roadway. So, 5 miles an hour actually makes a significant difference when you're looking at speeds.
Yeah, I think what the mayor just said recently, just now, was that your shortcut may be someone else's, and in a lot of instances is someone else's neighborhood, and vice versa. And I think we have a map that we're going to put up there. I think the key here is maybe the color coding, and maybe, Chief, you can kind of repeat and mention some of the things that we're going to look at on this map. So this is a map of the city of Beverly, and we've got it color coded to these speeds. There we go. So what are we looking at there, Chief?
So as a good example, the red line that goes right pretty much halfway through the city horizontally is Route 128. Again, that's why that's set as it is at that number. Little difficult to see here, but you can see on the graph in the bottom right corner, all the different speed zones we have. Over the years, we've petitioned either the Commonwealth because of various reasons to lower speed limits in certain areas. Some roadways are very narrow and curvy, so there may be a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit. Some of them had traffic studies done, and we look at what's called the 82nd percentile. And through the engineering study, if 100 cars drive through that area and 82% are doing a certain speed, that's what the speed limit is set at, you know, with other factors included. But we are now looking at some of those, and I know the mayor wants to speak specifically about those. We're looking at some of those streets and you know, have things changed, have more houses been built, have the roads, have the new sidewalks been put in and narrowed things. New businesses gone in. So should we look at areas that may have been 35 or made 35? You know, should they be reduced down to a 25 because of congestion that may have been overlooked? One of the roads that we commonly talk about is Odell. When you come off of Pickett onto Odell back towards Montserrat, that I believe is one of the streets we really seriously have to look at reducing the speed. People come out of the train station or they're walking to the train station.
Right.
I was up there last night, particularly watching the traffic, and there's a lot of traffic for a very small road. So those are the things we have a lot of interest in looking at.
Yeah, and now some new signs have popped up, right, in the last week or so. This has been effective, what, about a week now, a week and a half?
Since February 17th. So what we've done is we put the big dynamic boards up that flash the message.
Right. I've seen those, yeah.
At several key entrance points to the city to remind people that effective February 17th, the citywide speed limit is now 25 unless otherwise posted. And in addition to that, we have ordered permanent signs that will go up, again, at all the different entrances to the city, and there are a number of them, that will say citywide speed limit 25 unless otherwise posted.
Right.
And that'll be, that'll let people know every time they come over the town or city line from somewhere else that those are the rules of driving in Beverly. 25 unless otherwise posted.
Right. Now, Mike, you mentioned that there are still some streets that have yet to be evaluated. So, and I think you mentioned some 6 streets in particular. Maybe you can elucidate that for us.
Absolutely. So, first off, as I said, the state law was changed back in last July. We have been examining all of our streets since then. We put a lot of time in through the fall months into the winter. And as we looked at all of the special speed zones, the posted numbers other than 25, we started with looking at every street. We pared it down to about 20 streets that really seemed like they needed a closer look. We went out and spent some time driving them. And when I say spent some time, we drove up and down at all of these streets doing different speeds.
Different speed limits?
20, 25, 30, 35. And it was interesting. It was interesting, the dynamic of cars piling up behind me as we did certain speeds, and that goes to what the chief said about the state's rules around changing and setting speed limits.
Yeah.
At any rate, we spent a lot of time out there, determined that for the most part, the posted speed limits are appropriate for the sight lines, the engineering of the roadway, the safety, as long as people drive those posted speeds, and as long as when they go over those speeds, we stop them and remind them that they shouldn't be. We did identify 6 streets, and not the whole length of some of these streets, but certain sections
of them, yeah.
that we really need to try to change, to decrease. And so I'll just run you through those quickly. The chief mentioned Odell Ave, and that's Odell along the train tracks between, as you said, when you turn left off of Pickett, it's a lower speed limit. When you hit the bend and then go straight down along the tracks towards Montserrat train station, it's 35 miles per hour, which we determined is too fast. So we're trying to drop that to 30.
Okay.
We've taken some counts, and it doesn't make sense to drop it to 25 in that if we tried, we wouldn't succeed. Because as the chief pointed out, that formula where you can throw out the slowest and the fastest cars, but then you have to take the average of the rest. That's what the state will agree to. So we're trying to drop Odell from 35 to 30 because that's what that regular flow of traffic would seem to suggest and support.
Yeah.
So there are several others. Ober Street from Hale Street to Lynch Park, we're trying to drop from 30 to 25. It's posted at 30. We'll try to get that down to 25. Lakeshore Ave, there are stretches of Lakeshore that are slower, but there are the straightaway between close to the cross lane, cross street,
Right, yep.
and a bit after that, it increases to 35. And from the other end, as you come up from Montserrat train station, when you get up to about Pearl Street Extension, it increases to 35.
Yeah.
It's narrow, no sidewalks, lots of families live along that street. We're trying to get that decreased to 30 in both directions.
Okay.
Again, it wouldn't support going down to 25, but we're hopeful that the study will support going to 30. Colon Street, which goes from Brimble Ave near the Montserrat train station, past the senior center down to Briscoe, and to the Gloucester Crossing intersection. There's a good stretch of that that's 35. At each end, it's 30. The middle of it's 35. Well, the middle of it includes going by the senior center,
Right.
and the intersection with Heather Street and on down towards Briscoe.
Right.
So we're trying to get that whole stretch changed to 30. A couple of others. Amherst Road, this is an interesting one. Excuse me. Amherst is part of the Raymond Farms neighborhood. It's a side street off of McKay. All the other streets in that neighborhood don't have a speed limit sign posted, so they all were 30, and they've all gone to 25. Amherst has a posted 30-mile-an-hour sign. Don't know why, don't know the history, but because it's posted, we can't drop it like the other streets until we prove it.
Yeah.
So we're gathering data on that and trying to get that one dropped. And the last of them is Dodge Street, near the North Beverly train station. As you turn off of 1A, cross the tracks,
Yeah.
and right at that intersection with what some people think is the end of Brimble,
Yeah.
but Brimble becomes Budley, becomes Laurel.
Yeah.
So it's actually the end of Laurel. So just near the train tracks by the North Beverly station, as you head out Dodge Street towards Wenham,
Yeah.
the length of the road is 35 miles per hour. And we drove that one again and again and again. And it seems for the most of that stretch, 35 is appropriate, again, as long as it's enforced. There is one brief stretch closer out towards the Wenham line by the, excuse me, by the Johnson Tree Farm that's lower because of a dangerous curve. The rest of it's 35. We believe that the stretch from by the train station up to Michael Road, which is up at the crest of the hill past several side streets, should be dropped to 30. So we're trying to get that, again,
Okay.
collecting data to submit to the state to drop that to 30. So those are the handful of streets that we think we can actually successfully gather data and drop limits.
Okay. So these are, again, these are streets that are posted by the state, but how does the actual process work? What data or what sort of engineering studies do you have to do? And how long is this something that would take several months or a year? Or,
Well, the collection of data can be done over a couple of days or a couple few days. It's submission of the engineering dynamics or study, and as Chief said, some of the different factors, because engineering isn't the only thing taken into consideration. So other factors like Chief spoke of, and then the data of what kind of vehicles are on the street, what kind of volume, and what the speed is that everybody's currently driving. That all factors in.
So the city could potentially put together their data within a few weeks, and then how long typically would it take the state to respond to that?
As long as it takes them.
Okay.
In a matter of months.
Yeah. Okay.
But we've been gathering data on these streets already, and so we're readying these packages to submit.
Okay. So you'd hope that maybe by the summertime the deal would be done, or they hopefully. You never know.
As soon as we can get answers out of them.
Okay. Well, let me, Chief. Let me go back to you again. What, from a law enforcement standpoint, on these lower speed limit streets at 25, what is the city going to do? What is your department going to do to kind of make that known to the people driving these streets?
Right, as the mayor alluded to at the beginning, we put up the electronic message boards, which will be coming down pretty soon because, again, the city is now posting the permanent signs. Commissioner Collins and I actually talked about this yesterday, and one of the things we talked about and some of the confusion, and that's why you really want to get out ahead of this, is that it says 25 miles an hour unless otherwise posted. Well, again, 100 yards down the road, you may see a sign that says 35. I particularly think of 1A coming in from Wenham, and it's 35. Again, if you see the sign, that's what the speed limit is, and that's one of our big focuses. But what we're doing is we've gone into the neighborhoods, we've added extra patrols, specifically targeting these, call them the gray streets when you looked at the map, in those neighborhoods, and we're issuing warnings, letting people know that there is a speed limit change. No matter how much we publicize it, how much we get out ahead of it, there are still people that won't know until it's brought to their individual attention. So we're giving out warnings in those areas and doing an educational campaign. On top of that, we've done press releases and we speak about as much as we can. So our regular traffic unit, we have 2 officers, a sergeant and patrolman that are permanently assigned to traffic. They're out as always, but focusing more on those neighborhoods right now than other streets in the city. Our community impact unit has been tasked with going out again, maybe going away from some of their duties, getting into the neighborhoods and doing traffic enforcement. As I mentioned, adding extra patrols, using a little bit of overtime to supplement to that effort right now. And then the last thing is we've just talked to the regular patrol units to spend more time in the neighborhoods. Again, they spend a lot of time patrolling the businesses, working different calls and things like that. But we've asked them to also focus a little more on the neighborhoods, do a little more enforcement, and to bring the speeds down. But as always, if someone's doing 50 miles an hour in a 25-mile-an-hour zone, that's not going to be a warning. That's reckless in any stretch of the imagination. So we will enforce the laws if necessary. But our main focus right now is warnings, whether they be verbal or written, in an effect to educate the public.
Yeah. Now, Chief, are there any statistics that chart accidents or fatalities on because of motor vehicle collisions and accidents that for the city of Beverly, and maybe how do we stack up against other communities in that respect?
Yeah, let me jump in on that because there's a significant data point around this drop from 30 to 25, not just in Beverly, but in a lot of communities, in that if there is a pedestrian motor vehicle accident, if somebody gets hit by a car while walking or jogging, the survivability of being hit is significantly, it's statistically, it's way greater if you're hit by a car going 20 or 25 than 30 or 35.
Well, you would think, yeah.
So and so we don't want to see anyone hit by a car, and that's traffic enforcement goes on every day of the year. This is not new, but that is a significant safety benefit to lowering speed limits and lowering the rate of traffic all around town.
Yeah.
In a city our size, again, a majority of our accidents are on the heavily congested roadways because that's where a majority of the traffic is. But again, what happens is people that know the neighborhoods get into the neighborhoods and travel maybe quicker than they should because they know the cut-throughs, they know the shortcuts. They're not relying on, say, a GPS device to get to a certain location, which they follow because they know, hey, if I take a left or right and a left, I'm going to beat all this traffic.
Yeah.
That's why our focus is getting into the neighborhoods. I mean, overall vehicle safety is our main concern with this effort. Since I became chief in 2013, one of my main focuses was increasing our traffic safety program and our awareness. I mean, we've gone from under 100 stops a month to at times 600 stops a month. And again, a vast majority, probably 80% of those or more, are warnings and just and educating the public and just slowing traffic down. And in doing that, I think in 2016 we had one motor vehicle fatality with a pedestrian. And in that instance, it was actually late at night where a pedestrian crossed against the green light wearing dark clothing. It wasn't the vehicle's fault. But again, that's why we have to get out and enforce all motor vehicle laws. And the mayor and I have talked about this. Speed isn't just our focus. Stop signs, red lights, pedestrians crossing against the signals. It's a huge problem we have at our major intersections, which is don't walk, and people just step out into the walkway thinking they're in a force field and they have the right of way. And technically they don't. So we have a large area to patrol, and we're focusing on everything we can to reduce the accidents, reduce even the close calls.
Yeah, yeah. I'd like to touch on another subject now. The recent completion of the dual roundabouts at the Sawyer Brimble interchange now. That's been up for, what, about 6 or 8 months now, completed. How has that been working? What's been the feedback on that roundabout construction?
It's a complete success.
Yeah.
You know, we knew that. We knew that. I mean, those old intersections with the stop signs, the T intersections, and all these left turns across oncoming traffic, you know, they were not safe, and they caused long queues of traffic behind them.
They did. Trust me, I know.
So,
I had to travel every day to work that way.
So the roundabouts are big because I do want to say, though, that Chief and I have a standing meeting the second week of every month where we go over the data from the prior month. And it has been a top priority of ours for 3+ years to improve and improve and improve on the safety of everybody moving around and living and working and, you know, spending time in the city along our streets, crossing our streets, however they move. And so that's ongoing. And as Chief also said, you know, there are 4 different categories of stops. Somebody can get a verbal warning, a written ticket, or they can get arrested. And when somebody's stopped, you know, and their information is run, if there's an outstanding warrant for their arrest, that has actually been a significant benefit to the safety of the community as well. So there are a number of ways in which stopping somebody can make the community safer.
Yeah. Now, continuing on with that intersection there, the plaza construction, the so-called Whole Foods Plaza that's going to be constructed. So far, all of the construction there and the digging has been kind of like lower level and foundations and so forth. Once they have trucks with building materials and other construction going on, how do you see that affecting that roundabout and the ease of navigating that?
Well, first, I want to go back to your first comment, and we've actually looked very heavily at the numbers up in that area, and accidents have dropped significantly from the old T intersection because people get frustrated, especially when they're trying to go up to Dunham Road in the afternoon or in the evenings for the shows. People just cut out because they're sick of waiting, and we had a lot of car accidents there. We don't have those anymore.
Yeah.
To the Whole Foods project itself, they are doing some groundwork now. When it gets to the point where their construction traffic begins to impact the proper flow of traffic, we will mandate that they have officers up there assisting with that intersection or those intersections.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But well, know that tractor trailers go through that intersection every day.
Yeah.
You know, delivering things, construction vehicles, every day, not just for that project. And everything was designed to handle it, and everything does handle it. It's working well.
Yeah. No, I'll give you a personal testament to that because I travel that way. I have been for a dozen years, and I can tell you now that you just the traffic flows through there so smoothly. I know some people have to get used to who has the right of way at various sections of the roundabout, and some people will stop when they don't have to stop.
Right.
But that's just a matter of education and getting used to it.
That's the biggest issue up there, where people stop in the circle when they have the right of way, or someone will try to sneak out and not yield. And I go through there almost every day myself, and as you know, my guys know, and as the man knows, I stop cars all the time, and very rarely do I ever make a stop up in that area because people are starting to really get the feel of it. I know I've had conversations with the management and the owners up at North Shore Music there. They're thrilled with the way the people get out. They don't have the complaints they used to have anymore from their patrons.
Yeah. Now, let me ask you another question, maybe not quite related to what we're talking about, but there is, on one of those loops between the southern roundabout and 120, there seems to be a lot of standing water there. Now, is that by design? Will that during the summer, will that become completely dry, or what's the reason for that?
Ask that question.
Go
ahead.
Well, there's in one of those loops, there's standing water. It seems like
I'm not sure
like
I'm
a little pond.
Where.
Well, it's.
I mean, there are detention ponds.
Well, I guess maybe that's what I'm referring to.
Like sure.
But is that designed to be there?
I'd have to ask
my college or
our
someone?
Commissioner of Public Services and go look at it with you. But there are places where you've got detention ponds that when it rains, they're designed to hold water. And that, kind of so that it doesn't all hit the drainage system at once. It kind of goes in a little more, over time.
And every road is built with a super elevation so that the waters drain off the sides of the road into an area off the roadway. That way you don't get the ice buildup. So it's made to get the water off of the pavement.
Okay. Okay. So then I'm assuming that during the drier season in the summer, that will be dried out. Let's talk about another
May I
topic.
jump in with one?
Please.
We're making application to the state for another Complete Streets grant. We received a Complete Streets grant to rebuild Broadway between Rantoul and Cabot. Construction will take place this spring into the summer on that. We're also applying for a Complete Streets grant to do streetscape on Cabot, from Railroad down to, and we'll go as far as we can with it, as we hopefully receive the money, from Railroad down to the Cabot Theater and beyond. And the focus with that will be to redo the sidewalks and to redo some of the intersections to create some bump outs, which will shorten the distance in the crosswalks from one side of the street to another. So part of the focus is pedestrian safety, and part of the focus is an upgrade to the kind of key retail district of our downtown.
And you call that the Complete Streets grant program?
Yes, the Complete Streets program is a Mass DOT program that focuses on when communities redo certain streets, the focus is on improved pedestrian access and safety and bicyclist safety, and making sure that, for 60, 70 years, it was the automobile first and everybody else had to get out of the way. And this is about really kind of restoring that balance between different modes of transportation and different uses of space, and it's particularly important in downtowns and in retail districts.
And so this is a chunk of money in the state budget that's available, and cities would have to apply for it from grant purposes, right? So typically, what's the size of the grant that we might be looking for?
We got the first grant in the state last year at $400,000. We were the first community out of 351 to become eligible to submit, to get approved, and to get a grant.
So this is a new...
We have an incredible planning department, by the way. And that's entirely on them that they got us
well, Mr. Clausen, there you go. Ask for a raise next time around. Well, we've just got a minute or two now. Let's just talk about the 1A construction project that's been going on for a while. Kind of give us a 30,000-foot view, and where have we gone so far and where are we going next? I know we're going to have, in a future show, we're going to talk about this in depth, but maybe you could just give us a quick overview.
So it's essentially a 2-year construction project, and last year was the first, and this year is the second. And a lot of it's a full-depth reconstruction, so new drainage under the street, taking down 3 coats of pavement, regrading, rebuilding sidewalks, curbing, and 3 coats of pavement. So it's a lot of work, and as I said, it's more than half done. Yeah. And people continue to see that work going on as soon as we get started. The winter's about done, so pretty soon.
Yeah, and when is the conclusion of that project sort of?
Initially, they said October of this year. Yeah. The state did. Yeah. I believe that's possible. I think whether it's October or whether it's November, December, I think the goal is that it be done this construction season.
Fantastic. Well, Mayor Mike, thank you very much, and Chief LaLancher, thank you for being a guest on our show. And I'd like to remind our viewers that you have been watching City Scene with Mayor Mike Cahill. I'm your host, Walt Kosmowski, and we'll see you next time.